there's people in China that are rioting because there is these bank runs on these rural bank companies, and basically $5 billion of clients' funds have been frozen, and there's all these protests and such in the streets in these rural provinces such as Henyan. I don't know if I said that correctly, but basically four banks they froze money at four banks, and these funds have been frozen for over 3 months. So what are your thoughts? Do you think these people are going to get their money back in China?
I heard a little bit about this stuff. I've been trying to really get more information, but of course, as we know, the CCP, they have their great firewall, as everyone calls it, and they have a very good filter to stop very important, pressing information from getting out to the general public and to more specifically democracies at large. So the main information that I was able to gather is that I saw that there were 50 cities in particular that were affected, 50 in mainland China. You mentioned that 5 billion number. I will just go to the length of saying this. That 5 billion number could very well be the number, right? But we know from China's track record, they like to overstate things when it's good, and they like to understate things when they're bad. Here are my two main examples of China doing that. For the longest time, China was boasting 12% year over year GDP growth. Do you think that that was happening? I don't think so. I think if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. That's number one. And then in number two, in the case of COVID, China was saying that less people died than actually died, which was pretty clear because they wouldn't have went out of their way to build and assemble these incinerators and put them in cities if enough people weren't dying. You don't just build an incinerator if there's only a few people dying, right? Or whatever the case would be. So they obviously falsify the numbers of the people who died or the people who caught COVID. And then the other thing is that they also covered up the spread of the virus, which ultimately led to the global outbreak, global pandemic happening. So I don't think that they're to be trusted with some of this information. I think that realistically, uh, we would have to kind of see what sort of Western financial institutions and really European financial institutions with large interests in China, like what number they come up with as like a collective number. But even so, especially if they're not publicly traded companies, they don't really have to disclose that information. So we really have to try to find out if that 5 billion number is accurate. But from what I gather, what's going on is that people are just not paying their mortgages, and it's a big fucking problem over there. And obviously, that trickled down to the American economy. We have plenty of companies here that have business interests in China. One of Warren Buffett's best friends, Charlie Munger, he constantly preaches how he loves China and he loves some of the things going on there. He has a lot of money invested in China. I'm not too sure about the Chinese housing market, but I know he does have a lot of money invested in China. So China is like a main player in this whole geopolitical stage, and then the global economy obviously is a main manufacturer of goods. So if people aren't paying their mortgages, and there is some type of slowdown, and there is some type of production output halts, that can happen. That will be much worse than China operating under the zero tolerance COVID policy. That remains to be seen. And it's something we have to keep an eye on, and we definitely have to watch moving forward because, like I said, they have a tendency to understate when things are bad and overstate when things are good. And that's something that, to me, points to the fact that the regime cannot be trusted. There are certain people that will live within the country who are not afforded the same rights as other people, and they're a totalitarian regime. So, truthfully, I don't like trusting anything that they put out. So, I want to see what the data comes out from. Hopefully, an amalgamation of data comes out or a collective figure kind of comes out, a ballpark number at least, from Western or financial institutions that are held to more rigid and transparent structures than a totalitarian oppressive regime.